We must mention your co-directors, which are Pietro Marcello and Alice Rohrwacher.
Rohrwacher is a Deutsch name.
So basically, I mean, did you know each other before you got together for this? Who had the idea?
It's we already knew each other. The director, we particularly estimate the works of the other director. I already knew their film. So when Pietro Marcello had the idea, they proposed us to do this film with them, with Alice and Pietro. I was very happy because we are very. We haven't the same idea, but I feel very close to me. So the idea to make a collective work was for me very exciting. And the first idea was to go through the country, to meet people, to meet young people in the square, in the street. And the particularity of this work that we start to film in February 2020, and after 2 weeks we begin the film. The entire world was closed, so it was very strange because we had to find other ideas to how to move and ask about the future. In that moment, it was like a paradox.
Because how did you choose the students, the people to go to? Did you just do it randomly, or you just sort of knew specific areas you wanted to cover? How did it work?
The idea was to make a travel into the country in general, from the north to the south, without a scientific method, because it was impossible not to do statistic or to do something very. But the idea was to find the different part of the countries, different also level of the class. Classe sociale.
So. Different societal strata.
Yes, and but and after we start, we decided to meet especially some groups of people, not just single, because we wanted to stimulate a debate between them to look for. Authenticity, something more. But the important for us was to listen, not to feel the story of the single people, but to listen the opinions of the young people. So it was important to understand what kind of thoughts they had about our world, and. We prepared at the beginning a lot of the questions, but at the end of the day, we understood, we realized that this question so impossible to do. How imagine your future? How you do that? It's a very dangerous question, because if you imagine that someone asks yourself this. It's very difficult to answer. So, but when you ask this, you try to explore the level, also the desire, the ideas, the projects, the energy, and you have in the imagination. So we felt that it was very important. It was the main question of the film.
Did their views surprise you in any way? Was it what you were expecting them to say?
Yes. Well, honestly, I have two sons of the same age, teenagers, and I discovered something more with this film, also about my sons. And we discovered that it's for them, for example, it's very difficult to talk about the future. There is a difficult to imagine the future. There is probably the first generation that talk about the end of the world. That in my generation it was an idea like fantastic idea, like in the
Science fiction.
yeah, science fiction. And now it's almost reality. And also we discovered a generation that have to face a complexity, a real complexity, and also very lucida,
A lucid vision.
very lucid vision, yes. And so, yes, I discovered, I discovered a generation that's more prepared than I thought, more prepared to face the future. Also, if it's difficult to imagine it.
Did their views, obviously COVID came out, and then did their views change when you went back to do some more? I mean, did you notice a real difference in people's attitudes then, or was it more or less the same?
Yes, we decided, we wanted, at the beginning, we wanted to exclude the COVID from the film because we wanted to accept this. No? So we wait 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. So, but we understood that it was our reality. So we decided to make the COVID enter in the film. Obviously, the situation, also the temperature of the film is completely changed because, I don't know in England, but especially in Italy, the teenager was the more part of the population, more like affected, also in prison. I have to say in jail. It seems in jail because a lot of schools were closed. The adults could go to work, for example. For the adolescents, it was very difficult. So we tried to achieve some groups, some laboratories. We shot up a big part during the summer because there was a little opening in the COVID. So it was more difficult, more. We imagined a different project, but we are very also relatively happy to have documents also of that period, of that moment of COVID. So COVID and future are two words very, how do you say?
Interlinked.
Yeah, interlinked, but also very opposed, come si dice? Very,
Opposite and interlinked.
Exactly, yes.
You said in the introduction that you shot on 16mm. I mean, who decided on the actual house style? I mean, although there's 3 directors, it all looks pretty, solid all the way through of one particular style. Who decided to do that?
Well, we decided all together because, for example, I started to shoot my film in 16mm, so I knew a lot of this technique, this kind of imaging. And Alice too she's already shot their film with film with 16 millimeters, and Pietro I think made the opposite journey because he starts with video and I don't know. We thought that give an imagine more trasfigurated, si può dire, no? Come si dice? No, trasfigurated, dare una trasfigurazione all'immagine, cioè dare un'immagine meno realistica in qualche modo.
In a way, it was more detached because he had to go through the medium, a very visible medium of the 16 mils, so a different type of image that we're used to in digital.
We liked the grain very simply, and also, as I said, this camera gave us an authority with the image, with a difference between us, the adults, and the young. The other thing that is like psychological, but it's important, that you have to know that when you turn with the film, you have just 11 or 12 minutes for one take. So there is a tension when you talk, because you know that at the same time the film will finish. So and that we also we said to the teenager, to the boys, to the girls, that pay attention, because we have just 10 minutes, and now we have just 5 minutes for the next take. So it was a moment sacro, come si dice?
So it was a sacred moment.
A sacred moment, yes. And
with a deadline.
Yeah.
I mean, are you familiar with the British documentary series Up, where Michael Apted, the director, he revisited the people every 7 years? I mean, is that something you would actually think of doing here, to see where these people that you interviewed did in fact go? Is that?
Yeah, we don't know. For example, we have a lot of materials that is not in the film that we wanted to face. I don't know when, but we have a lot of archives. We like the idea that this film could be an archive, like an archive. Archive, sorry,
yeah.
Archive for the future. And we also like the idea that other countries could make a work like this. For example, we know that in France or I don't know if it's in Spain, they're interested to do Futura for their country, because it's important also to relate the different. Yes, I consider this film like a laboratory, something open, and could continue to live.
And the choice of vintage footage that you use, I mean, you go back to the 2001 Genoa G8. Choosing that, was that a really important pivot for you to choose?
Il materiale d'archivio del G8 è stata una cosa molto importante per voi scegliere?
That moment it was a surprise. There was Alice that was shooting in Genova, and she had no plan to make questions about the G8 and what happened in Genova. But one of the students she interviews, they are part of a choir. So when they talked, one guy, I think I said, we belong at that school, Diaz. That is the school where during the G8 the police fight with the students. So suddenly a big question, for us, for now, our generation was very important, because for the G8 for us represented the moment when the idea of collectively finished. So it was, and we also understand that regarding the materials, that moment could be the end of the film, because we built the structure of this film not at the beginning, seeing the materials while we're shooting, so we have no idea how to edit also the film. So we understand that the key of the film could be that moment. So when the young people start abandon the idea to say us, but say just me. So I don't know if I explained where this concept of it was.
So basically it was the end of the idea of the collective and the beginning of the idea of the individualism. So instead of saying we do this, we do that, they started saying I and me, what happens to me, what I want to do. So it was from us to me.
And also it was very surprising also to discover that the younger generation doesn't know anything about what happened in that, also about the story of Italy, and but also about Genova, about the 70s. So there is like a whole, and probably, not probably, for sure, it's our responsibility that ignorance.
I was really impressed by some of them when they were talking about the whole racism, sexism, that sort of thing. And their attitudes were really very positive. I thought, I came away from that thinking, oh, you know, there's actually some sort of hope there, I think.
Yes, because
È stato piacevolmente sorpreso.
Yes, we realized that, for example, questions about sex, racism, or some questions that we consider important for the main groups was
So what? Yeah.
no, it's a no question. It's so this is fantastic. So it's not a problem. It's not a problem anymore. So for this part of for that they are very forward. They are very forward. Yes. For so this is good. And but the idea to make project the idea that you can really change the things, so politics, for example, this is something that is not in their interest, in their possibilities. That there is like a sort of passivity probably in that.
Well, listen.
But it's difficult to do generally. It's a very, I don't want to say this generation is like this. I don't know. For me, it's a film open. This is my idea that I thought during the shooting. So it's different to grab a generation to understand really.
We can open it up for a few minutes. Has anybody got any questions out there? Anybody want to? Yes, the gentleman. Oh, fine.
Okay, and then there's a gentleman.
And there's a guy down here.
Sorry, did you want to ask a question?
If he didn't, there's somebody down here. Don't worry about it. Guy on the end of this right here.
To what extent did the making of the film leave you with any optimism, given that many young Italians have left or are leaving and the country's population is aging?
Se ti ha lasciato, se ha intaccato il tuo ottimismo il fatto di vedere che molti se ne vogliono andare via dall'Italia e l'età media della popolazione è in aumento.
Yes. Yes, in this term, yes. I think that to be aware of that, it's a little step to be better in the future. But yes, there is a general complaint about that, about the possibilities. That everyone wants to go abroad. This is and this is not. It's not very good to feel, but for us it's important to start for the adults. It's very important to start to listen to them.
Is there anyone else? Because we have to. Yes.
To what extent do you think this pessimism is just unique to this generation, or do you think if you'd done this film a couple of years ago or 20 years ago, do you think you would have had similar answers, or do you think it would have been like it is now?
Se questo se avessi fatto un film 2 anni fa o 10 anni fa avreste ricevuto delle risposte diverse.
I really don't know. It's difficult to answer. What can I say about my generation? So not 2 years ago or 10, but 30 years ago. the future was something different. It was more open, more adventure. At that age, personally, because everyone is different. This is important to say, but personally, I saw more in the future. It was more adventures, and more possibilities. Now in that generation, we felt like a big present, a big something. But at the same time, a lot of progressive idea about other issues, about bad sex, about also parity between women. Exactly. So something we
conquered. Yeah, we progressed, for instance, in the idea of sex discrimination and sexual discrimination.
I think that the civil rights are very clear to this generation, and this was different for us, for us in Italy especially. At the same time, the idea of change something in the world. So, for example, the end of the world. We are close to the end of the world, but nobody's talk about the possibilities about how avoid, for example, the end of the world.
I'd imagine that your children, you said you have children, I'd imagine they were your biggest critics. I mean, when did you show it to them, and what did they actually think of it when they saw it?
I don't remember the specific comments, but for sure they said, okay, you made a photography about us. We already know that how we are. Now it's the moment that you know how we are. So this is the point. So I think it's a film more for adults than for the young people. Yeah.
You said while we were sitting there that the very final scene was a very important one for the filmmaker there, Alicia, I think you said.
Alicia, yes.
Why was that? What did she see as that summing up?
For two reasons. You should ask to Alicia directly, but I said
I'm sure you know.
Because there is a completely different way of filming in the last scene, because it's it's completely free. It's the qua prende più il documentario di osservazione, cioè c'è una libertà nel filmare e vedere quello che succede veramente, mentre il resto è tutto molto più organizzato, quindi diciamo anche dare alla fine questa possibilità, questo senso di libertà per noi era importante.
So it is also a departure in the style from the rest of the film that was within limits choreographed, so everything was shot in contained situations with a script, with the questions. But in the end, it was more filmed like a documentary of observation, because it takes a completely different tone and it leaves it more open. So in a way, it leaves the ending open to the possibilities.
We've got to call it a halt there, but listen, thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed Futura. Francesco Munzi.